Hello everyone, I'm Mario Bobino, the filmmaker, and I'm here with my father figure, Bill Moore. Now this is a very interesting interview because Bill's born and raised in Oakland just like myself. I met Bill Moore, 1987, Channel 2 when I became an intern, May of 87. And the good thing about this story, I got to give you guys a little bit of background. Obviously I'm black, he's black. So when I started internship at Channel 2, as far as the employees, were 90% white. So here I am, a young black man from Oakland, and I remember my first day there, it's only person I saw that looked like me was Dennis Richmond, which pretty much was untouchable because he's the anchor.
Right.
And then you had Mark Richardson, who was the assignment desk editor, so he was too busy in reference to making sure that the assignments went out.
Yeah.
Then there was the fabulous Faith Fancher, who was a reporter, so she was kind of in and out, which is also a mentor of mine. And then we had Ron Acker, who was black, who was in charge of the editing. So here I am sitting up in there, and I'm looking around man, I don't identify with nobody. So here comes this cool black man walking in there, and it's Bill. I go and introduce myself to him, and as soon as I introduced myself to you, you kind of just took me underneath your wing, and I wouldn't have got into filmmaking if it wasn't for this man because he had film cameras that he actually taught me how to use. Remember the black bag? I had to come to your house. He taught me everything, so he let me go out there, trial and error, and I was messing up on some film footage because, it's about exposure, f-stops, and things of that nature. This man taught me everything, so just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background. For those who know that I'm in the filmmaking business, I wouldn't have been able to get into it if it wasn't for this man right here. It was like a father figure to me / mentor. Bill, you're from Oakland, went to Tech, was raised. What was Oakland like when you was coming up? Because I know I came up in the 80s, and pretty much things was a little bit more liberated then, but I know for you it was a lot more difficult. What was it like growing up for you in Oakland?
Well, we had good black neighborhoods. You had a lot of black friends, so, we knew there was hills up there, but we never went in them. We never even went up there. I really didn't want to go to Tech High. I wanted to go to Climates, wanted to go to Hoover. But by the time I got out of Longfellow, my mother and father thought that I would get in trouble. So they said, you're going to have to go to Woodrow, and that really made me mad because Hoover was 3 blocks away, and I would have had that connection. And I got to Woodrow Wilson in 1948, and there was 6 black kids in the whole school, So you about know how they treated us. It wasn't very friendly, wasn't very nice. And I was afraid that when I got to Tech, it would be the same, but Tech had a few more black people, so at least you didn't feel so isolated. But I'm really sorry that, I belonged in McClymonds, and I belonged in Hoover, where it was my brothers and sisters said, no, send them up there. So I went up there, and I did the best I could.
Now let me ask you this, because I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, but you was the head cinematographer for Channel 2 News, so you was putting it down and didn't even know it. And then come to find out, when I was a young kid, I used to see this beautiful black woman on TV. Obviously, her name was Belva Davis.
Right.
So I never knew that you was married to Belva Davis because you never told me. You just took me underneath your wing, but you never told me who you was married to or anything. I just saw a ring on your wedding finger. So then one day you said, man, you got to come to my house so therefore you can get this film camera. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're married to... This man was a baller right there. So how did you become the head cinematographer at Channel 2? Because when you first started, you was going out with Dennis Richmond a lot. But how did that come about? Because they didn't let too many brothers get behind the camera.
Well, I went there as a cameraman. I was hired because when I was hired, they didn't have any black people in Channel 2. And Will Sobey, who was a photographer there, who I went to Laney College with, said, come down here and apply for this job. I said, no, I don't want to do that. He said, no, come down here because they're going to hire the first black guy that comes in. And that's basically what it was. I went down there, news director looked at me and said, come to work tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And so I went to work. How I ended up as the chief photographer, it was really a crummy job. You didn't have a lot of power. You didn't interview people for jobs or anything. They made all you just were sort of like a keeper of the equipment and the automobiles. And so when the last guy quit, they said, you have to do it short term. And so I took it, and it really it was nice to know, I was the chief photographer, and I did help make sure that certain kinds of employees were hired. At one point, we had a young Filipino-American kid, and I suggested that they hire him over a white guy. And the white guy was really bitter, prepared, had more experience. And he came to me and complained. I said, listen, Ben could only get a job here. You white, you can get a job anywhere. And of course he did. He went wide out, walked across the street, and got a job at KTVU and someplace else, you know. So I felt good when I could do some things like that. But being a chief photographer was just a chore I had. It was nice.
Now, what got you into cinema photography?
Well, I tell you, this Will Sobey, he was a photographer there. We had went to Laney College and we had studied photography. I was a still photographer. I was a pretty good still photographer. I had just got to the point in my career where I had my own account, you know, and when you get your own account, you get that one money account, and you're set, you know, because it's going to keep you going. And I got an account with Pan American Airlines, who was their main domicile was SFO. They liked me, the work I'd done for them. They said, we want to hire you, we want to put you on retainer, we want you to work exclusive for us when you're here.
Yeah,
not exclusive for them, we want you to work for us, but you can work for any other airline at the airport. It was a great job. And then this guy comes up with this TV thing. You want to do TV? And, well, you know, Belva was already in TV. I said, well, it's a shot. I will both be doing the same thing. And so I took the job, and it was very boring. It was very hard. The equipment was heavy. I said, I can't carry this stuff the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm going to do. Shelton was a very small station. They didn't spend a lot. If your camera broke down, you just didn't work that day because they didn't have any spare cameras, you know. They had to wait for one to be shipped from Los Angeles somewhere. But I started to record things and realize, and something you kind of realize later on in your life in your career as a photojournalist, is that you have this front row seat, an eyewitness to everything that's going on in the world. You are right there, you know, and so as you look around, I could sit here right here where we're doing this story and tell you about something I did right across the other side of the lake or something I did up in there. And so that was kind of you know, I had done some stringer work for the Associated Press before, so I had a little bit of news sense and was really getting better. And so I said, yeah, I'll stay with it. I'll just have to find out how to strengthen myself because I didn't want to get weak. So I started running, and I ran for 28 years.
Now, what's interesting is, because I remember we had this discussion. I remember you was telling me back in the days, because I believe you started in the 70s, right?
68.
Okay, 68. So I remember you was telling me a story about how you would have to do this major story. I think like maybe somebody like maybe Dennis Richmond or somebody was interviewing the president or somebody who was really, really known political-wise, and you'd be the only black man there. How did that make you feel?
Well, that was tough, but Belva and I were both going through that. She was working in television. She was the only black person there. There was one other reporter, Ben Williams, was there. I was treated really separately. If I went out to a crime scene, the police would let me stop at one corner and all the other press would be, you know, a block down the street. But I could have went off. I said, no, I'll just put up with this stuff. If I had a head of state or anybody like a vice president, anything that took high security coming in, if I went to cover the story, they had a door for the photographers to go in, and they would stop us all there, and look at our IDs, and then send all the white guys inside, and I'd take about 10 more steps, and they'd come over here, and they'd check my ID again, and then sometimes I'd have to go through 3. When it got down to 2, it wasn't bad. So what I did is I went out and I bought me a cheap polyester suit, and whenever I knew I had a head of state, I wore a suit and tie, and only had to make one stop. They said, okay, you can go on in. But it was pretty tough in the beginning.
So now let's slip back to Oakland itself. And I know you said you wanted to go to McClymonds for whatever reason. What was the fascination with West Oakland back in the days when you were growing up as a kid?
When you read old stories about West Oakland, people will tell you that it was, we were as, how can I say it? West Oakland was as active with black people and black families as the Fillmore was. It was the headquarters where the railroad stopped, and so if you transported yourself anywhere from the East Coast to the West Coast, the trains ended in Oakland. My father worked on the railroad. My mother-in-law worked on the railroad. So there was a lot of energy there. We not only had restaurants, but we had bars, we had nightclubs, we had playgrounds that we could go play on. We had movie theaters, so it was a very exciting place. You know, it was a very good place to be.
Well, Bill, I'm gonna close out this interview because you pretty much talked about the history of Oakland. One last thing before we get out of here is West Oakland was prominently black. What was Oakland as a whole like when you was growing
Well,
up?
when you're growing up, you don't know what the rest of Oakland looks like. You knew that nothing was predominantly black. There was always in our neighborhood some Italian people, some Asian people, and some Mexican American people. So there was never, people say, yeah, there was maybe 85% black, but there was some white folks that had a little house there and they weren't going nowhere and they stayed right there and they were your neighbor. When I grew up on 37th Street, which was a little further up from West Oakland, we had a group of guys that all played together. And Jimmy Clay played with us. Jimmy Clay was just a little white kid. He lived down the street, but he was our age. You know, when we went to play, he played with us, you know. We went up to play baseball. Somebody go get Jimmy. We're going to play some baseball. You know, so it was congenial.
It's a big word, congenial. Well, Bill, to my viewers out there watching, stand-up guy, thanks for being that father figure for me. Thanks for allowing me to come into your life because you saved me so many times, especially with my attitude at first.
I couldn't get rid of you. I tried to get rid of it. You just kept hanging on. You kept calling me up. You know, I had other interns. I went to a lot of little black interns. What do you need? I had one intern. His mother was like somebody I went to school with. And I really had a crush on his mother. And when I heard that if someone wanted to be an intern, I said, yeah, I'll take care of that for you. And I got him an internship, and he was a flake. I don't think he ever walked up to me and said thank you. But I couldn't get rid of you. You'd call me, and finally Belva said, you better go pick him up and take him with you. And so I just took you with me, and we went out and shot things, and we didn't know what we was doing, but I felt safe with you. I knew you were dedicated. At that point, you could have done anything you wanted. If you wanted to go on broadcasting, you'd have been up a reporter. You'd have made it. Knowing now what you've done. I remember looking at some of that early stuff. Yeah, Mario, that's okay, you know. And then someone said, "Yeah, Mario, it's gonna get a little better." And then that last film, I said, "Damn," you know. So you've impressed me. You really impressed me a lot. I tried to get you to talk to what people I knew in Hollywood and hope they could help you. But I ain't worried about you. You can be okay.
And last but not least, I just want to say, you were so helpful to me. That's why I'm an educator right now, is because one thing I'm going to give you kudos for is the fact you taught me how to make it in the system. And a lot of older black men, they don't teach young black men, if you want to make it in society, there's certain things that you have to keep your mouth shut. Don't be so aggressive. Just chill out. And like you said, just be patient. So, Bill, I would not be where I am today if it was not for this man right here. This man can get anything out of me because this man changed my life around. Bill, continue to be a Class A guy. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And this is for the archives. So long, everybody.
Okay. Good job.